Okay, so with our last little video, I was just saying that mollusks are a large, successful group with nearly 100,000 known species, but many more remain to be discovered. Here's a really cool video. I put a link to it because you're not going to be able to link on it this way, I don't believe. So I put a link to it where it says video links. Check this one out. It really, I think, is very cool and looks at mollusks, the group of them, and all of the adaptations that they've gone through in order to survive. I think you'll really enjoy it. So check that one out. Pause here, go check that out, and then come back and we'll move on. Okay, so type of mollusks. So gastropods. This is, you might want to take a look at that coloring sheet that I gave you that says the shelled gastropods. And you can take a look at that while we're kind of going through this. It's the largest group of mollusks. It includes snails, limpets, abalone, and sea slugs. So gastropod really literally means belly-footed. So they have internal organs over their foot. They mostly have coiled shells. So you'll see those with coiled shells. Nudibranch, however, are sea slugs who do not have a shell. But what you'll see is they've got that radula for grazing on seaweeds. Some are deposit feeders, meaning that they feed off the ground, and others are suspension feeders, meaning they'll filter food out of the water. Some are carnivorous, and they'll use their radula to capture prey. So here's the diagram that's in your textbook under mollusks. And so notice the internal structures. So this is different compared to the organisms that we've studied this far. The worms had that, intestinal tract and stuff, but here their intestines are pretty much coiled. So take a look at this diagram, and what I would suggest doing is on your coloring sheet, under shelled gastropods, the tulip snail, the diagram in the top right corner, the tulip snail, I would transpose that information on this diagram onto that snail. So that way, on that snail, you are writing down all the intestinal, the stomach, you're showing the digestive system, the intestines, the gonads, that's their sex organs, their shell. Notice that they've got a heart and a gill, and then that's their anus on there. So you can take a look at that and notice that on the tulip snail, that G, what's labeled G, is the siphon on there. That's not actually the anus, so just be aware of that. But what you'll notice is that there's a lot of organization here now. We've got a head, they've got sensory organs, they've got an eye, a primitive brain called a ganglion, the radula, so you can see those where the teeth-like structures are inside their mouth, leads right into their digestive tract, which now has a salivary gland in it, a true stomach. So getting a little bit more sophisticated. Notice the operculum. See the operculum that's labeled there on that snail? It's also labeled on the tulip snail. It's on the foot of the snail. The operculum's a feature that they have where if they need to close up, they get touched by a predator or something startles them, they can completely close down by first drawing in their head, then they draw in their foot, and then that operculum comes over and closes up that space. This space that I'm talking about that they close up is the aperture. So the aperture is the opening to the mantle, and so if you're looking at the actual shell, then the opening is what we call the aperture, and that closes off, and now they're sealed in there for, you know, they've got their water sealed in there, temperature, moisture, all that good stuff. But notice on your coloring sheet, what I'd like for you to really notice is all of those body parts, so that you can see the apex on the shell, labeled there B and A. The apex being the youngest part of the shell. Then as the organism grows, the animal grows, the body, the shell forms into these whorls. It has a siphonal canal. See that? The siphonal canal is labeled G. That's what houses the siphon in there. They've got the operculum. You should know the foot, the siphon itself. They have tentacles, and those tentacles are sensory organs. An eye, or eyes, also sensory organs. A head, a mouth. So label that, color those sheets. I think that'll be helpful to you when you're studying the mollusks. So here are some types of mollusks. Abalone are, you know, where the mantle is, or the, the aperture is as large as the actual mantle itself. And then the nudibranchs on here as well, showing the nudibranch here in the corner, bottom right-hand corner. And so those are shellless gastropods. So let's look at our types of mollusks. Now, I did not give you a coloring picture of bivalves, but bivalves have specialized filter. They're specialized filter feeders. You know them as clams, oysters, scallops, mussels, shipworms. They have a compressed body in their mantle cavity between two shells, and that's how they get their name bivalve, because of the two, bi meaning valve, and then the valves being for the shells. They have extended folded gills for respiration, and they're filter feeders. Water enters and exits the mantle cavity through the siphon. And notice that they do not have a head, they do not have radula. So here we've got filter feeding. If you're a filter feeder, you don't need to have a radula. Clams burrow, and so what you'll see is that there's all different styles of living. You can be a burrowing clam. You can attach to hard surfaces, so you know are attached sort of living, or free living like scallops, which actually swim. So here are the types of bivalves here, or a diagram of a bivalve. And again, I didn't include that as a coloring sheet because, you know, if we just really work on those, on the shelled gastropods, I think you're going to be doing just fine. And then we've got our nudibranchs in there as well. So your coloring sheet on the nudibranchs, so I'm not going to go to the cephalopods yet, but for your nudibranchs, if you take a look at that, nudibranch literally means, so look at your coloring sheet. And nudibranch literally means nude bronchi, and the bronchi being like the lungs or the gills that they have. So they're exposed. They're not inside, they're exposed. And so if you take a look at the drawing sheet, you will see the really pretty nudibranchs, aerolid, in there, and if you take a look at that nudibranch, then it has serrata, and the serrata are gill-like structures labeled E on your diagram, and this is where respiration is going to take place. And then if you notice, the diagram is showing that nudibranch is actually on top of this hydroid here that it is eating. So one of the types of jellyfish, the hydroid, and remember they have the stinging tentacles, and so what can happen in the serrata is that they can actually gather up some of those nematocysts and use those when they're hunting their prey, to sting their prey. So they're pretty cool. If you take a look at the sea hare on your drawing or on your coloring sheet, that's a really pretty nudibranch, and it has this large mantle, that parapodium that can cover the entire, over its gills or over its serrata, and basically keep itself pretty well protected. And then look at its nice large oral tentacles. That's how it gets its name. So those are the nudibranch, and they're very cool. Okay, so then we'll move on to the cephalopods. So that would be your coloring sheet that has the squid and the octopus on it. So pull out that sheet now, and let's take a look at that, as well as taking a look in the book as far as the cephalopods go. They are exceptional predators, and they've adapted to the molluscan body plan to an active way of life. And so they're agile swimmers, they have a complex nervous system, and they've reduced or a complete reduction, complete loss of their shell. So you've dissected the squid. We did that so that we could get some lab hours in. So now we're just going to make sure we understand the features that you were seeing. So you could use your drawing and the coloring sheet to help you understand what's going on with the squid. Also, notice figure 7.29 in your textbook. It shows you the internal organs of a squid. So I think it would be beneficial to transpose the information on 7.29 onto your drawing sheet there, your coloring sheet, so that you can see the internal structures, or you'll know the internal structures of the squid. So you could add labels like the radula, the mouth, the esophagus, the intestines, stomach, anus, siphon or funnel, and the arms. So they're kind of cool. But so let's go through them really quickly because we're going to run out of time here. So the cephalopods include the squids, octopus, cuttlefish, chambered nautilus. Their name literally means head-footed. They're fast-swimming predators, as I said, using water jet propulsion, water entering and exit the mantle cavity by way of a siphon or a funnel. They have a well-developed nervous system with large, complex eyes, brain, and nerves. They are very intelligent. Well, at least the octopus are very intelligent. They have a thick mantle covering their body. The radula and beak-like jaws are used to crush and rip prey. Their shell is internal, and hopefully you pulled out the pen of the squid when you were dissecting it, or it could be completely absent. So here's a diagram of the mollusks. Of your octopus, you can see those internal structures. And here's our squid. This is what I think you should transpose onto your coloring sheet.